Hey everybody. So I have a list of stocks that people have asked about, and I also have some ones that I think you should look at that I think are actionable, and we'll go from there. As always, consider subscribing to the channel and putting on notifications because this becomes fairly timely. Today we will be reviewing the weekly charts, and we may drill down into a couple of them. So they are in alphabetical order, so if that's of interest to you, you can just fast forward or jump around. If there's one thing in particular you want to hear and you don't want to go through the whole video. So ABLM I was asked about, and I always start these little stocks with something very simple, and I just explain that they are very easy to manipulate. So, I mean, this one, you can just see how the volume's picking up from here where somebody probably accumulated it. Then some news comes out or they do something, and then all of a sudden, boom, the stock jumps. Right? So you have to keep that in mind when you do that. The patterns do stay the same, but you just have to realize the degree of probability, and we're just going to leave that there. You just got to realize the degree of probability is a lot less on these penny stocks, or we'll call them dollar stocks because that's what they are. They're like $1 or $2. So, I mean, in regards to this and this breakout on the weekly, this is not something that I would get involved in right now. I mean, you had your chance this week at the 130 level, and obviously it did exceptionally well for those that were in it. You drill down into the daily, and you can even see on the daily what's going on here, right? And you can see the break, how it happened. You can even see the curl, right? And then how it took off. You're way overextended now. This is not something I would go near. How would I trade it if I owned it? I would drill down into the daily and say, okay, if I broke this level, I'm out. I'm not going to go for that ride. So at least I make something. And if I wanted to see what was going to happen, I mean, I would literally look at this as a wick. Because you have decent volume. You don't have the same volume you had on this breakout. So it's starting to lose interest. But what's happening here is you have a dollar range on a $3 stock. So, you know, you're going to need this thing to consolidate before moving higher. And if it breaks out and makes a new high, I mean, you can trade it on a much shorter time frame, 15 minute, just use your triggers. So this is interesting to me. This is BTBT. So I like this breakout, and I like what it's doing since that breakout, right? We retest here, and you can see this level, okay, this close. We retest that level. We can't close above that level, and then we come down. And you can see that this now is something that we're not closing below. So this is a little level of support. Not a big level of support, but a little one. You have a little support here at the 1550 level. And we closed right on this 5-week moving average. So overall, I'm forming this nice little wedge here. Now, if we drill down into the daily on BTBT, what I get is something really interesting, right? I have this wedge. We've tested here. We already drew this on the weekly, right? But then what's interesting is you go to a daily and take a look at it. And you can see, I mean, you can actually see on the daily how this is so, this level. I mean, it's also here. So what we're doing here is we're breaking below it and then closing up, testing it off the open, closing up. Now the opening price is moving up, right? You see that? See how like this was your opening price? This is your opening price. This is your opening price. It means you're getting demand for this. So I think that for people that are interested in this, a higher high bar, this is something that you could set an alert to, but you're at $17.99 on this. So, I mean, you can create an alert on this that, however you want to do your alerts, that when it touches this, you're notified. But this is definitely something I would want to be notified of, especially when getting above the 5 and the 21, the 8, and we haven't been above them since this started, right? So what we did was identify something by looking at a weekly that was interesting, and then we drilled down into it, and we found the daily that tells us even more information. And probably if we went into the hourly, we would see even more, but we're going to keep going. So here's your pivot. Something like this, when you have these huge Momo moves, you can go back and test these highs of $33. And this is a really nice flag that we're forming here. And you should be able to see that essentially, this and this and this, essentially got turned into your flagpole. So we'll put a little arrow there, and we'll put a little arrow here, and we'll keep on rolling. So you can see that, right? So this is your flagpole that just happens to be the low of the, tell me again, technical analysis doesn't work. So just tell me, that you don't see this, please. But so here you are, you're trapped, right? This is your range. And then what's it do? Test, 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 boom. And so this is our key level, and this is a pretty key level. So I would definitely put this on your radar. And what we did was look at the weekly and drill down into the daily. So let's do this one. CLF, let's go a little further back here, right, on this one, so we can really get into it. So you can see on CLF, we had a range here, right, and that range was 7 to 14 on this massive down, and that happened in 2014. And then we drill out to it. You can see how we respected that level, right? And now what we're doing is we're forming another flag with a little wedge into it. So if we drill down into the daily to take a look at it, you can see this wedge. Right? And now what did we do? I'm just going to leave the arrows there because I'm trying to save time. So this is interesting, right? You have your wedge. Now, what do? We talk about these patterns all the time. So for those that aren't in the newsletter, consider subscribing to the newsletter. But start looking at these patterns, right? We broke support. This is exactly what JMIA did, and we talked about this at $36. So we broke support. We look like we're going to close below the 21-day. What's it do? Ramp up. Okay, a break into this channel. If you're interested in this name, a break into this channel takes us to the higher end. From that higher end, then we could see if we break the 19 level. We already know back here that we have changed the trend, right? The trend has changed. It hasn't for, 20 years? You go back, 10 years. Got a little dramatic there. So you can see that we have not changed in a decade. But we have changed now, and you're saying, well, how do I know I changed? Well, here's this peak. Here's this peak. Here's this peak. We're making higher highs now. We weren't doing that before. So something is changing here, and we all know that it's higher commodity prices, but that's irrelevant to the stock price, right? It's irrelevant from looking at price action, and that's why I don't talk about it. But here again, we looked at the weekly. We drilled down in the daily, and then we found an actionable point that's protecting us. This would be your stop, and then we go from there and see if we can continue this move. CRISP, I think that this company is phenomenal, and I've been in this for a while, in and out of it actually. Back here in April, May, this area, I actually did it here and then got stopped out and then got back into it. But what happened with this is I did see this before she really started becoming famous, and Cathie Wood was accumulating it. And what they do is just absolutely fascinating. And you can drill down into the fundamentals. This is not a fundamental kind of chat. I'm talking more process, actionable, how to be consistent and profitable. So you can see what's going on here, right? And we talk about these patterns. Look at these long bars. So we're seeing huge long bars now. And large institutions are starting to sell up here. And we know that just by looking at the institutional holdings. But that said, there's some real positives here. Okay, so you have support here at 180, 142, and that's right where the 5-week is. And we really don't break that, do we? So if I was in this, I would hold on to it. And then a close on the weekly below the 5-day, which we have not had, right? We haven't had it till you get to about here. And then it just reversed right back like the boomerang, through this again, boom. So even if you're stopped here, who cares? You just buy back, right? But at least you're protected. So you pay up for it. So what? Who cares? So, think like that a little bit. Just because you sell it doesn't mean you can't buy it back in an hour. It just gives you a clearer head. It changes your mental perspective. If you see a trigger on a 15-minute chart that happened and you got stopped out at the bottom, you can look for that trigger, put it on again, and then just use that as your, low. So DM, I don't want to get into what we did in the newsletter yet. So we talked about this, right? And we've been in this, I think, I have to look at the price on the daily, but we've been in this newsletter for a while. But this weekly, and I get a lot of messages from people now and notifications from people where they're putting research reports together and they're sending me the research reports. I am extremely protective about what I'm going to put out there and what I'll retweet or show. And I don't know, until I know someone's background, I'm not going to publish your fundamental research. So, I may read it, and then if I find it valuable, then I may publish it. But until then, I'm just not going to post things that other people are sending me to promote. That's not really what I'm trying to accomplish or going to accomplish here. So what we see happening is we see this range that we've been talking about. We tested here, right? We cannot close below the 1609, and then after those tests, what happens? We explode higher. Now, we talked about this level on the daily on DM, and you can see this is where I said to trim. And the reason I said that is because these bars are so wild, right? So we really don't know what's going to happen. Now on the daily, we're starting to get a different picture, aren't we? Right? We're starting to get a little more clearer. But I'm not 100% yet. So we're in this one. I think I'm going to have to look at my cost, but we're in this one at 19. We went up here. We're up 20%. This is a great area to trim, and you can see we cannot close above this. Doesn't mean that we will not close above it. It means right now this is what's transpired, and that's all the information that we have. So we need to act on that. That's why I said trim this. In the newsletter, your stop is now your cost. Worst case scenario, you make what's here. But I would not get involved with this. There's too many different levels where this thing is holding and bouncing and trying to find its calling. What I would be looking for is I would be looking for it to pop back into this channel, right? And this is why we drill down. You really don't see that channel here. I mean, you kind of do, but not really. So you drill down into the daily, and then here you are. Here's your channel, and you can see it. So until we close above this, hold what you have, but do not consider adding until you close above 25.50. So, and you can tell the pace of this is going to go a little faster. I'm going to try to speed this up for everybody. The processing times on YouTube are absolutely killing me. I do a video and it takes 2.5 hours to process. So the daily videos might get shorter, and then we'll just have longer ones on the weekend. So when things aren't as time sensitive. But here we have FDX on the weekly, and you can see exactly what happened, right? You can see how we tried to rally here and stay above it, and we looked great, right? And you can see these peaks. But here's what's interesting about this, and I think that this really pay attention to this. So we talk about these bars, and this is a weekly bar, but it still plays, where the open is the high, and then here is the low. I mean, you're basically, the high was Monday, the low was Friday, right? So what you're seeing is, when you look at these bars, is what happened. Okay, well, we held the 8-week, but we tried to get here, we couldn't, we rally, and then we fail again. And what kind of bar do we fail on? The open is the high. The low is the close. And we close right here. And then what happens to us? We gap down right over this resistance point, and it's just been ugly ever since. So, fundamentally, we could talk about the Christmas season. The packages won't be mailed as much. The economy's going to open back up. I really don't care. If the stock was acting better, you buy it. So, but also now, if I was in FDX, this would concern me as well. So I've got the 5-day rolling. I can't get above that anymore. That's resistance. There's 21-week, I should say 5-week. There's 21 weeks rolling. and now I have, a lower low and and a lower low, and a higher high and a higher high. Well, what's that mean? That means volatility is expanding, not contracting. I have zero interest in being in something where volatility is or expanding. There's no reason to be in something that's getting wilder ranges as it tries to sort itself out. And you can see how all this buying is now met with huge selling bars, right? I mean, October, September, you're going into the Christmas season. Now all of a sudden it's time to sell. December, and you can see how these weekly red bars are significantly higher, where we can't even get average daily volume, right? So this is not something that I would be that interested in, and we can look at the daily, and you can see the lines, and then look at what it's doing here too. Right now on the daily, we're below the 50-day. That's turning down. We can't get above the 21-day. There's no reason to be in this. Realistically, if you are in this, this level is extremely doable. Hold on. This level is extremely doable. So keep that in mind. So FUBO, and I'm going to work on something to start making these a little more actionable and getting them out faster. And I just have to figure out the process of this for some of these buy alerts. So I try not to put a buy alert in the newsletter until it's triggered. Because what I noticed was some people were not reading the trigger prices, and they were entering stocks like TAK, which was on the list, before they trigger. And my goal here is to educate, get you consistent, get you profitable. It's not to hand you a live grenade. So I'm a little apprehensive to do that until they trigger right now. The issue is delivery. By the time somebody reads their email, they might not get it. They might not see the Twitter feed till later in the day or the next day, depending upon how active they are. So, the emails or the newsletters are read fairly recently. I mean, the opening rate on them is something like 60-70%, which is from what I'm told, is good. But what's going on here is this was perfect, right? And we talked about this, and we talked about these expert short sellers. And they just happen to issue this short report here, right? Because this is when they want to be short. Now, here it had the same issues, right? 48 hours earlier, it had the same issues. But there's no report. No, we need to wait until the stock is vulnerable, and then we issue the report, because we have to get our position on why the stock's trading up. We have to get a good average. And that's what they do, right? They know that they're going to issue this report. We close it at an all-time high. Everybody's giddy, and they trap us, right? They trap us, and they gap it down on the open. So now the people that were all giddy here and looking at this, and it could be anybody that does it, right? I mean, it could have been me. It happens to everybody. Anyone that tells you it doesn't happen to them is just not being truthful. But we have a huge gap here. You got a gap here. I mean, this thing is these continuation gaps, closing at the high bar, closing at the high bar, closing at the high bar. Boom, right? This is where we issue our report. Okay, so when you issue it here, and now I have all these people trapped, what are they going to do? Sell. Then I get this bar. And, now we're hoping. The people that don't have a process, now they're hoping. You close right on the low, right? What happens? Opens, close on the low. Tries to rally, can't, sells down, capitulation. All the people that were in here, that's it. I've had enough. I'm exhausted. Now let's just go through something here, because this is important. All this red selling encapsulated all of that. But look at this. We break, we have 1 day below the 50, and then what starts to happen? The 50 starts to become support. So moving averages can be support and resistance, right? And that's what happened here. So we're watching this, and then we see this huge bar up, and we called this trade live, I think. So we saw this huge bar up. We broke, filled this gap. I had some friends that were running funds, or are running funds, and they're like, oh, we're waiting for it to go back up to short it, and they're trying to short it in here, and I'm telling them they're running into a train, and that's exactly what happened. So we came right to where major resistance is, and this 4018 is major resistance. And I know I'm going off on a tangent, but this is important. So what starts to transpire we issue it right on Twitter. Boom, we reject it. It's time stamped. You can look at it. So next thing, we trade down again. But pay attention to this. Look at this wide swing. Look at this tight swing. See how it's getting tighter? It's coiling. So we know where our levels are. We know what resistance is. We know how it's respected this. And what happens? We go from here back down to here. Capitulation again with everybody. This time it's really going to go to zero. Nobody cares that they're going to do online sports gambling, even though here we were told 6 days later it was never going to happen by an expert. So what transpires? This close. Okay, so this is Friday. And let's just look at this level for a moment. Okay? So this is our close. So if you were to look at this bar, the only time we have closed higher is one of these three bars. Right? So this is the fourth highest close that the stock's ever had, and no one's even paying attention or looking at it like they once were. Because up here they were told something. So do your own research. I am going to get into GME again, it looks like, because I was asked about it a lot. But so our next level is this right here, this resistance point. You got to watch that. That's really important. Okay, we break that, we're going to 62. My personal opinion, we're going back to 62. I have a position in this. I'm long it. What I'm long and where I'm long really shouldn't be a decision or decisive factor for what you do. It should just be how you decide what to do with that information in your own process. I could be out in a minute and you would have no idea. So just keep that in mind. It's really important you have your own process. So this is the GME weekly, and you can see what it did here. I don't have to go off on the big rant again. Hopefully I won't. But so here's what's interesting about this, right? We get the bad news. Stocks going to 20 because I said so. People don't understand the float. Okay. So what I have is I have a bunch of people here that have no idea what they're doing, shorting something because someone says that they don't understand something, which is about as reckless as you could possibly get, right? There's no fundamental reason for anything that the person said. So what transpires? And now you have people that are looking at this, and what happens this week? Right? We're trapped in between these two bars. And then what happens? We gap under this 43, and then we push. And I started saying this during the week that this was going to happen. I got pretty vocal about it. And the reason I was vocal was not to, pump my chest. The reason I'm vocal is, this guy put people in harm's way. I mean, there's really no other way to say it. I mean, that's exactly what he did. He put people in harm's way. And it's just not right. I mean, there used to be a thing called front running, and somehow that's just not even investigated anymore. But what's really interesting about this is what transpired here. We opened at the low, and you just could see it all day. I mean, we can drill down into an hourly. I mean, you could call it, right? I mean, here's your hourly, and these are levels that we set from the weekly. So you see why it's important to drill down. And look what happened. I mean, and then look at this volume. Look at this volume picking up, right? You can see what's happening. And we discussed this and we discussed what to do with it. Now, my personal opinion of this is that this is not over. I want to see the short interest on Monday morning when it's all recalculated and see where they're truly at. But, this was very interesting. There was somebody very large. They wanted to get out of this. And because we halted twice at the same exact price point. So to me, that means that the order imbalance was so great that somebody had to get out at any price, and that there was, they had to buy at any price, and there was probably a very large seller up there that was willing, saying, okay, this is the price that I'm going to sell it to you at to cover, and we'll go from there. So I would imagine that somebody that had a very large position was there to help them. After he probably moved his position from margin to cash, like the rest of them do. So, and I don't want to go down that road again on that pitch. But here's the thing, just technically, you can see 43.06 was their level. Here's that peak, here's this, and then it explodes. We have to look at what happens next here, okay? I stated on Twitter how I would trade this. We could bounce around here before going higher. We can go up to here. Your stops at this point, you should have definitely been out of some of it. We started getting in the 30s. And, I mean, you can see the support level. But what is really important here is I don't care the people that are shorting this telling me they don't care because it's definitely going to come down. Okay, you shorted it at 40 and you're up $36. If you're going to tell me you sold calls against it, like one person sent me this text trying to explain to me why I was wrong. I'm not wrong. I have a double. So you're the one that bought or sold calls in something that has the ability to go to triple digits in a day. And why do I want to sell the 60 calls for 25 bucks? All I'm going to make is $25. That's all I have the potential to make. Look at the risk that you're assuming to make $25. How much capital are you tying up? What's your game plan when this goes to 300? And usually when people message me, especially about things like this, and I start getting the notifications and the hate mail saying I don't understand things, that usually means to me there's another leg into it. So I think this continues to move substantially higher over time, but I really want to see Monday what that data comes out as. What the short selling data is, and see how much was truly covered. If it's substantial, it could start fading back down. So, laser, and let's do this on the weekly. Okay, you can see what's happening here, right? Hopefully you can see what's happening here. Hopefully some of this starts, like the more you watch these, and even if you just allocate 10, 15 minutes a day to watching these and studying price action, you'll get a lot better. And you can go back and look at the older ones just to even see how we did. And did what I say actually transpire or didn't? And then what is the probability of what I say or the style that I'm using? Is it accurate? And what degree of probability is it accurate? Anyway, so you can see what's going on here, right? One close below support, and then we bounce here, and we go right to resistance, right? 34.44, we close right below it, okay? That's fine, but there's one thing that I'll point out to you, and this is why you need to look at these patterns. And someone said to me the other day, they were like, wow, how can you find these? And how long have how long have you been doing this? You got to realize something. If you just started out and you're following this, I don't know why that arrow's doing that. It's maddening. You got to understand a couple things. I've been looking at charts for over 25 years. So when I look at a chart, it's like someone that looked at a jigsaw puzzle and does one every single day, 1,000 pieces. These things will jump out at you after a while. But you can see this, right? So you can see how we stop here, how we're here, right? Opens, gaps, oh, it's all over. Well, not really. So gap, and we go right to here. Now, what's interesting about this, okay? This is the single highest close that we've had on a green bar. And we're not seeing a ton of action. We're not seeing it being talked about, and we're consolidating and we're getting tighter. This thing looks like a cobra. Like this thing's going to move, and it looks like it's getting tighter and tighter. So I don't know how else to describe it but a coil, and you can see it getting tighter and tighter, right? Look at this, bonk, 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 bonk. I mean, this thing's going to go. So what are we looking for? We're looking for a break. So what I would be looking for on this is a move above 34.44 and create an alert on it, hit the little button, and then it'll go to your phone or your email, whatever system you have in place. When we break here, right, and you can see this close across the board, right? Here's that other close right here on the daily. And then here, that's the same week. That's why that one bar had it, even though it was down on the week. But what's interesting is when we close and break above this, now, after being consolidating like this, 37, we can see that we have some resistance there. But through 37, we're going to 47.80. We're going back up here. And this consolidation is letting us know that that's probably going to transpire. So definitely put this on your radar. Mara, these stocks trade on Bitcoin. I mean, it's really very simple. And you can see what transpired here. We opened, and below that, we closed above it. We tried to rally. We failed. We stopped at the 8-day. And then let's go to the weekly and take a look. So these lines were there a long time ago. So it's kind of interesting when you look at it. So this line was here, right, from 17, where last time, Bitcoin was going to supposedly go up forever. And this was the range that you had, right, in like 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. So our first breakout point on this that we reviewed was right here, right, was that level, 1450. And we broke that. We got right back into this huge wick, right? And here was the top of this other little wick up here. And what happened? We rejected. And once we rejected on the weekly, you can just see boom, boom, boom. So my interest in this becomes interesting at 1456. I don't really care what the company does or how they're related to Bitcoin. We have minor support here. Here's major support. We are holding this 21-day that's good, but these things, this 5 and this 8, are pointing down violently. So until that shapes up, I would avoid or wait until we get to major support. So I did a whole thread on Netflix, and I mean, it did what we really didn't want it to do, but it did it anyway. If I can just grab this, put it there, and it all bursts. No, it won't. Okay. So we'll move this arrow, put this here. So you can see on the weekly, it did what we really didn't want it to do. It closed below resistance. So again, these lines have been drawn for a while, and you can just see how it respects that, right? And we closed below that. Does that mean the trade's over? No. It just means that we need to really close about 575.36 for this to keep moving. So you can see this on the daily, right? Here's your range. If you break this 556 level, you can fill some of this gap, at least to here, which is 546. So that's why I'm saying it doesn't make sense to try to get involved in this. Now, if you're trying to be cute and get in sooner, I got it down here. So see this little wedge? Wait till you have a higher high bar, and then you may see some people jump into it. I would prefer this to sell down and the higher high bar to be over this line and have a convergence points, but we have to see what happens. And then even over here, you still got to worry about 593. So just watch it for now, but I think that hopefully we'll consolidate and then have some kind of trigger, and then we'll push off. But we may test this 556 level. I mean, I don't see any reason at this point. I mean, look at the day. We opened at the high, closed at the low. I mean, that's telling you that the short term, we're probably going lower. But it doesn't mean that the trade's over. It just means we have to watch it. And we did this. We talked about moves like this and when they do this, like NIO. We put this one in the newsletter. This was our first buy point. And we stated to initiate, and then we were very fortunate, and then we went into battery day. This is where I said to trim the first time, and I'm looking at the daily, but let's just roll with the daily for now. And then Thursday night in the newsletter, I was pretty clear, I thought, about where your second buy price should be right here on these convergences and moving averages. And what transpired was the stock did exactly what we wanted to do. It's a nice bar. We closed at the high. We should see follow through next week. A break of this now to the downside, you would sell your secondary position and hold your initial position and just ride with it for a little bit. But the way that this bar is between the open and the close lets me know that we're easily going to here, and I think we are at 75 as a target. And now it's starting to get even higher because of the consolidation and the pattern formation. So I'm very comfortable being in this. Closed at an all-time high on the week. Held major or minor support here after closing below it. So I'm very comfortable here. And I don't see a need to do anything except hold the stock. NNDM, we've been talking about for a while. The biggest issue, I would say, with the stock, and it's almost a running joke, is every other week they're doing a secondary. Now, what's fascinating about these secondaries is the stock is just being gobbled up, and they're pushing. The real test was this 1320, and we broke through it this week. That's the wick where we fell down in 1 week and got cut, almost 50% on the stock from 13 to 7. And then we just trended down, and then here was our reversals. And we've been playing these levels as it steps up. But the way to buy this seems to be when they do a secondary. And I would think that they're going to do another one. But there's a lot going on here secularly that's changing on this. So you can see how we're pointing up. All these moving averages are pointing up now, right? We should go to here. And you can even see on that level, right, if I go to here, you can even see the support here and resistance, right? You can see that. So I would really look for this level. Now, do I want to be in from 14 to 18? Sure. I mean, the way to play this could be if I close below this 1320 level, which I should not do, I'm out, risk $1 to make 4. The trade's there for people that are looking at it. And then on the daily, you're a little overextended. So you could easily pull back to this level, that 1320 level we talked about, and test it. But overall, volume's good. We're picking up, and I think it looks great and very interesting. And you can just see the stair steppers. So OZON, or daily. I think we may have to stay in daily because I don't think weekly we're not going to really get that much data. I mean, let's go back to this little trade and this little wedge. So I think this is where on Twitter we talked about getting in it, 47-ish, 48. You can go back and look at the timestamps by searching, and you can see how we bounced and then went right to this resistance point. Now, if you drill down into the daily, we can see where that is, right? Exactly where we said it was. So has anything changed? No, we closed right on support. Do I wish we were above the 5-day? Yes, I do. This needs to change its pattern before you should consider re-entry. We tested 51 and it held. It's great news. So, and that's also where the 8-day is. And these averages have been pointing up, so that should continue. But what we really want to see now is we need to see some consolidation, a pattern form, and then push. So I would not touch this until we get that pattern and a close above the 5-day. Let's go here. PEIX. Okay, so on the weekly, you can see where major support is 5, right? And volume's kind of declining here, and you can see 7.25. We really can't stay above that level, right? Tried once, 2, 3, 4 times. Can't really stay above it. So what does that mean? Well, it means we're curling, but 725 would really be the trigger that would keep you in the stock if this is something you're interested in. Let's look at the daily. Yeah, I mean, this is interesting, and I'll tell you why. Because breaking this, see how we did it and then failed? And then we tried and failed? This is drawn on a weekly, as we just did, but look how it respects it, right? And it's really important. But what's cool here is you're kind of setting up. You have this wedge that's then going to step us up and give us a test of this, right? So that test would lead probably minimum to here, and I'm getting really technical, but that test would push us to here. But here's what's interesting. Get through this level, right? And you have a right shoulder reversal. So here's your left shoulder, here's your right shoulder, here's your head. You break above this $8, you're going to here. For me to get involved at this level, if I get a higher high, so how I would do this trade is I would want to know when it gets through 7.25. But before that, a higher high here, which may happen Monday, Tuesday, above these moving averages, which puts us at like $6.95, $7, would convince me that we're going higher, and then really you could even use this as your stop. So, just for anybody that's interested in it, just create a little alert, just like that. This is definitely an area that you want to be involved if it closes above here and stays above here. And look at your volume. right? All the buying versus all your selling. It's definitely something that, to watch, because it can go back up to that head if those levels happen. Planner is another example. I have to find something that gets this information out faster, and I am kind of working on it, but depends how much time I have. But you can see the open is the low, and you can see what's going on here. And we talked about this consolidation, coiling. We talked about this. This was the JMI pattern. We're not going to review because we reviewed it yesterday. But look, here's your little boomerang effect. And then we consolidate, and then we pull back. We can't break the 28.25, which was what I stated should be your level on where you should trigger. And it just moved too fast for me to do a buy alert. Do I buy it here? No. Where would you buy it next? You'd buy it if you break above this line. So, if you broke above this line, then you would become interested. Right now, you can easily go back to 28.25. It sure as heck doesn't look like it, though, does it? Look at this volume. This volume is sick. Where can it go? This can move. You have 3-4 months of consolidation right here, right? And you have a huge channel. So would we get involved again? Could it still be in the newsletter? Absolutely. It could be a Monday, Tuesday. If we break this on another huge volume, that just means that this thing's probably going to keep going. So let's take a look at it. Do I wish that, I had an alert here and then I triggered here? Sure, I didn't. I wanted confirmation, which I got here. But we break this level, you don't want to chase it, right? But you could look for it to see if it comes down and it's red on Monday, and then see if it reverses and turns green, and then you could use a low that day as the stop. But just take a look at it and go from there. But here's your weekly. Just wow, right? Look at this. This is just so pretty. And then boom, there's your break, and look at how we're curling on the volume. So keep those levels in mind. Let's just keep rolling here. So REGI on the weekly just looks like a beast, but really we're probably in the second leg of this at this point, right? Look how these bars are getting longer and longer. Let's go here. And you can see, we missed this wedge here, and then you broke out. If you didn't miss it and you were in this, that's great. I'm not in this one. I do like how it's respecting the 93.13, and if you are in REGI, if you are in this, I would use this as your stop. I wouldn't wait for this, just because of how high off we are and where we could go to. So that's really it for this. I would not chase that. There's a couple things here that I see that show me that we could have some resistance coming. We could be going into some resistance, so I would not chase this one. I don't want to get too technical as to the points as to why, but there's a couple things going on here that lead me to believe that this may need to consolidate, or could have a blow off that leads to a reversal. So just watch this key level. Riot, let's go with the weekly. So fundamentally, we'll get into the company a little bit. They did an expose on this company in 2017 that was just eye-opening. This guy was running the thing, and I don't know if he still is, but he was running the thing out of his apartment. What's very interesting is, let's just focus on the technicals and what we see going on. This volume versus this volume, I don't know if they got their act together or what's transpiring here, but look at the volume, 200, and that's what I'm saying. If you're looking to play these kinds of names, I would be playing this one and not the Mara. But look at the volume. Look how the volume's increasing. This is some serious money pouring into this. And really what you have is almost a bearish engulfing bar this day, right? Actually, you have a bearish engulfing weekly bar here, right? You just didn't encapsulate this, but you encapsulate the high and the low. So it depends how technical you want to get. But I'd look at that bar, and that would concern me. So let's go and take a look at it and drill down. Well, we broke the major trend. We're not able to get above it. The 5 and the 8 day are falling down. But the 21-day held and was the open, and we tried to rally and couldn't close above 20.84. And so what would I do? Okay, if I was truly interested in this, there would be two things I would look for. I'd want to close above this trend line, but you might not want to wait till then, right? So then you could say, well, I want to buy here. Well, you might not want to wait for that 10%. So what do you really need to do? You need to close above this 2084. If you close above this 2084, then you could put the position on, and then if you go below it or break the 21 day, right, you're going to lose 50, no, you'd lose about 75 cents. So you could lose 75 cents to give $2 a test, but you're not really interested in the $2, right? But at least you could come back up here if you hit the $2, and then you could just stay with it and just leave your stop here. But then you push to here, right? Now I'm at 27, so I'm risking 75 cents for $7. Then if I flip here, I'm in good shape. And there's a little wedge here, but I would focus on those key levels. Here we are, RSI. You should be able to see this by now. You can't get above 24 3/4. Let's draw that, see where it is. We open, close here, got a little wedge. We're below the 5-day for the first time. So this has got to play itself out a little bit and develop. Right now I have a double top and a breakout failure. So this has got to play itself out, because if this rolls, the next thing it will do is form a base. And that base is going to take us to that 2094 level, and you can see how we fight and then we get above it. So this becomes your support level, and this is your resistance level. And so we may base here for a while, and these huge spikes of red let me know that the buyers are being overpowered. So this is not something you need to jump into right now. So shop, and let's go to the weekly. I mean, this is beautiful, right? Like, look at this. Like, can't get above it, can't get above it, boom. Above average volume for the, the month, but not, not on the 30-week. You can see how it fell off. But look at this little bull flag you have going here. And now we have an inside week on top of that after this. So if you were truly interested in this, 12, 16, 32 would be your pivot. And if that happens, we're probably going to be back in this channel. Let's drill down. And where's that take us? I mean, you get back in this channel, you're looking at 13, 1400. This is an enormous base, but this has become a monster and is just seemingly acquiring, that kind of Google, Amazon feel where it just grinds higher. But this, how we're consolidating here and we're getting tighter and tighter, that's a great sign. So solo, and I'll say it as a disclosure, I have a small position in this. I like this pattern on this wedge. I like how we respected the 21-day, and I like how we're fighting here and the open and the close. Even though we rejected, we have an inside day. And let me look at the weekly, because that's really what I was interested in. So here I am, 5 to 8, and here we are curling. And then we break through and fail, and we break through again. So what do we really want to see? What would convince us? You could play it a couple ways. A break above 840, 45, 46 is going to almost solidify that we're closing above 827 unless we have a really bad reversal day. So that's almost solidifying that if you break above this, you're going to go to here, right? So that's one way to enter the trade. The other way to enter the trade is just wait and see if it closes above 827. Now, if you close above 827, this becomes a peak. Get above this peak, we can test this. There's nothing really in here. There's some volume, but there's not a ton of it, right? There's just some key levels, but they're not huge levels. So this could retest back to 13, and that's why I took a small position. SQ, this thing is going to trade as it does with, they tied themselves to Bitcoin for a little bit. It's a really cool system. Whether you like Jack Dorsey or don't, I'm not going to touch that. But look at how he's doing, and he's done a phenomenal job at this company. I mean, this was an $8 stock years ago. So, But let's just look at the chart and see what's going on here. So I stated that we could be setting up an island gap formation. So you see this gap? That's not good. We rally right to it and fail. We have a double top and an island gap. This is almost setting up to gap down again, to have a gap day on the daily. So with what I see here and the trend changing, I need to get above the 5, the 8, and the 21 day and reverse and clear these levels before I consider getting back into it. You could probably trade the small wedge, and then use the 200 day as your stop, but you got a lot in here where people want out, and they're getting out. I mean, selling is overpowering buying by a lot if you take a look at what's going on here, which was not the case before, right? In June and July, they couldn't get enough of it. And now what's happening? So TIGR, someone gave me this idea, and thank you for it. It's just done exceptionally well. We started talking about this back here on this volume bar, and we said if we break this level, and you can go back and look at the videos and the timestamps on Twitter, so you can verify what I'm saying. But we went right to this wick. If we go to here, we're going to here. I remember talking about it, and it's exactly what happened. Then you have the gap down, fake. The week ends with going through both of these and this wick, right, to 1294, and then we called 1761 as the top. I mean, we're off by, 16 cents. So I think that when you see that, this was our target. Now, we've gone from 17 to 7. And can this keep going? Absolutely, it can. Now what we need to do is we need to see it close above this 1761 solidly on huge volume next week. So how would I play this? You could add to it on the 1880 break. You could add to it if it sells down and seeing how it trades. Most likely the way to do it is to drill into lower time frames. So this would tell you that 16 would be your minor support, and this 1880 is your major resistance, and we opened and closed right on that 1761 line. So there's a lot going on here, but I'd be more inclined to see a higher high before jumping into this. Maybe, hopefully you get like a red opening and then a reversal possibly and go from there. But definitely keep this on your radar. I mean, I don't think that, you're due to have a pullback. Yes, we all agree on that. But when you see this happen and this kind of volume, these moves continue. UAVS has just, they've been a monster here. You can see this, and then it just broke out. And now, I mean, you can just see in the chart, look at the volume compared to what we had before. We have a ton of interest in this now, right? So this is what I kind of picked. I wanted people to look at. So go here. Let's drill down. Right. So here's your support. By the time this becomes relevant, the 21 will be there. We're holding the 5. We're not able to break it. You have a little wedge forming here. People want in the stock. So we are ahead here. We are way ahead of ourselves. Look for a pullback and then start looking at this. This is a very significant pattern. And I'll get an email or a text asking me why. This is an enormous base, right? I mean, this is just an enormous, throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're no longer interested in it, and then boom, break out. So when you have a base that big, this could really continue for a while. XPEV, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about it, and I said focus on NIO, and I was very comfortable with it at this time. I trade price, so my position will change predicated upon price. So we put this in the newsletter at 55, and then we broke down. You can see the downward trend break here, and you can see these resistance points, 55.50, 53.89, and what did we do? Right? Here is where we got in. We went for a little ride, but we tested the wedge. Here, we broke the convergence points and these moving averages just to scare you, and then closed at the high of the day, and then we had follow through, right? We had follow through, straight through. So this is setting up, and I like this trade a lot now. we're above the 5, the 8, the 20, the 21, the 50, and we're not overextended remotely. We're just really clearing this up. So I'm really comfortable with this $74, $75 target. So that's it in a nutshell. Any questions, shoot me a message, and we'll go from there. Thank you.